what a day in college sports. The Pitt Panthers beat Florida State, a top 25 opponent, and the college football world lights on fire. We have plenty of different topics for you here today. Obviously, got two great guests again. Harry and Eric are back to break down a lot of what Pitt did very well against Florida State, winning this football game 34-31, which was truly impressive on a number of different levels because of the injuries that Pitt has sustained, the lack of depth because of injuries, but still found a way to win. Mason Heinzel continues his trend of being a great quarterback. We saw a number of great throws, a lot of Patrick Mahomes-esque in this football game. We saw a defense step up in the second half. We'll get into all that here tonight. And then the second half of the show, we're going to talk about the groundbreaking news here in Pennsylvania, and that's James Franklin fired from Penn State. A $56 million buyout, a $9 million buyout for Jim Knowles. What is Penn State going to be looking for? Can they really do better? We'll talk about it here tonight and why I think Penn State's in a really tough situation where I don't think they can do better than James Franklin and what was currently there, and the landscape of college football for where we are and what changes need to be made and what changes Pitt still needs to make as we go forward in the college football season. But guys, first up, the show is sponsored by Colonial Beer, located at 4986 Library Road in Bethel Park, PA, 15102. Tremendous people. Anytime you can help out a small business, you're doing the right thing all the time. But truly, two of the best. Bill and Alan are truly the best whenever you're walking in there. Plenty of different selections when you go through there, but tremendous people, and that's what matters the most. Anytime you can help out great Pitt men, you do so, and you do so willingly. Well, guess what? Another road game. Syracuse is on the road. You're going to have a tailgate at your house. Stop by Colonial Beer to pick up all of your needs at Colonial Beer, located at 4986 Library Road in Bethel Park, PA, 15102. The show is also sponsored by Thompson Law Group with Brian Thompson, an attorney on your side. Call them today at 724-799-8404 or visit them at thompsonattorney.com. Brian Thompson truly is one of the best, and unlike the larger law firms, Brian cares about you, the individual, not as a number, but as a person. He'll guide you through the process from beginning to end to make sure you get the results that you need in your case. If Brian doesn't have the answers, he'll still guide you through the process, put you in front of the right people to make sure you are successful in everything that you're looking for. Again, Brian comes from a great family, has a great family. Make sure you give him a call today. Thompson Law Group with Brian Thompson, 724-799-8404, or visit them at thompsonattorney.com. Last but not least, the K Collection, the coffee brand by Austin Kitchen of the Seattle Mariners, who are now just advanced to the NLCS, going for a World Series title, going for a World Series ring. The AK Espresso, go to www.thekingscraft.com. The AK Espresso, just finished up mine again. I got another batch coming in. Again, I was never a coffee person, so obviously I trusted Austin because of all the testing they do with what they do in Major League Baseball, making sure everything's good to go. The AK Espresso truly is the best. The backward K, the collection, obviously the backwards K, a nice touch for a looking strikeout. Make sure you guys go to the K Collection. Get yours today. It truly is the best. We're working really hard. Hopefully we'll get some, not just online, but also in Market District with Giant Eagle. A lot of good stuff coming up with them as they continue to explode into new sales. But make sure you go to the K Collection, the coffee brand by Austin Kitchen, Mount Lebanon baseball alum, Coastal Carolina Chanticleer national champion, and now on his road to the World Series with the Seattle Mariners. Get yours today. Well, guys, again, we got a great show on tap for you here today. If you've not done so, down below, it's free. It's easy. Do it right now. It's not very hard. Hit the like button down below. Helps with the algorithm. Helps us get more people in the chat, more super chats, more conversation. As you guys can imagine, you guys see this, the comment section. There's a lot of comments in there. Can't get to every single one of them. Obviously, Eric can't answer everyone. Harry can't answer everyone. We might even have Whitfield Insider Carlos Zofko in here tonight. So the super chats certainly help us see the questions and rise to the top. We'll put it on the screen. And also, if you've not done so, make sure you do follow Eric and Harry on X and plenty of other different platforms I'll tell you guys about here tonight. But I welcome to the stage Eric from Berg Sports, as always, the Berg Cave, and Harry, the Pitt Guru, the original OG of Pitt football. Both back here tonight. Gentlemen, welcome to the show, as always, and can't thank you enough for spending your time on a Sunday to join the show.
It's great to be here, especially after yesterday.
Oh, guys, I tell you what, we got a lot to talk to today, but to start it off, Eric, you watched this football game yesterday, and I was laughing because I saw the comments towards the middle of the game from from the announcers talking about the depth issues and the depth concerns because of injuries with Florida State. But, they never talked about how Pitt was on their 6th defensive lineman on the defensive end side of the football with 4 missing defensive ends, 2 missing defensive tackles, a backup left tackle, backup left guard, our true freshman quarterback. Desmond Reed makes his return. Eric, your first initial thoughts of the upset win yesterday and another top 25 win for the Pitt Panthers?
That was about as gutty of a performance I've seen from a Pitt football team in a long time. And you guys are plugged into the personnel a little bit more than I am. And I kept hearing true freshman, Turner, true freshman. There was a D-back making plays out there, true freshman. Like, there is a lot of young players for this Pitt team just making significant contributions. And it's great to see. It is so great to see. And you talked about all the injuries on the offensive line. To me, they played their best game, and I'll tell you for 2 reasons. I think Mason had some time to throw, and I don't recall hearing an offensive lineman's name called out much during the game, which means they're playing a solid game. They're not, in Florida State's defensive line is pretty good, and they held their own.
Damn good.
And they just played a solid game all around. The defensive line, again, had 5 tackles for losses. They were dominating the game. They're not big and stout, in a sense, but they're so athletic and disruptive that they're a joy to watch.
Yeah, and I think to your point there, they talked about Pitt's size, but Pitt recruits towards the size of being more athletic, more speed, and that's what they're really looking for. Before we get into any more comments here, JWM Adams, looking for your question here. Thank you for the super chat. Let's keep the mojo going into Saturday evening in New York. Let's go. Hail to Pitt. Couldn't agree more. Before we get into another super chat here, Harry, you watch this game. I mean, a gutsy performance. You look at this team, and obviously Mason has just truly, for an 18-year-old kid, you watch this kid play at this level. He's in a hostile environment in a place like Florida State. Great showing at Florida State yesterday, even with them being 3-2, now dropping to 3-3. You watch that game. You watch the offense. The offensive line, I thought, looked spectacular. Kendall Stanley and Ryan Coretta played their asses off for being backups now into the starting lineup. BJ Williams continues to be a force up front. Ryan Bayer, Lyndon Cooper, you have the leadership up there. When you're watching this team, and especially the offensive side of the football, what are the things that you really took away from in just that hostile environment, another top 25 win? What were your initial thoughts in that football game?
And I'll touch it since you mentioned it. I wasn't going to start there, but I will. I want to give a big shout out Kendall Stanley and Coretta for filling in. And this may be controversial. I'm not so sure Stanley isn't a better tackle than Percy. But
I agree.
What's really nice is we can have that debate and we can also discuss depth. So they played their asses off, and I want to give a big shout out. BJ Williams is crushing people on the field right now. I don't know. And I was going to talk big picture, and this also comes, we're going to talk O-line real quick. I cannot understand what's going on, but what we're starting to see is that line gelatinized. They're coming together, and to Eric's point, they might have played their best game. But what I wanted to touch on very quickly is the big picture. And what is absolutely amazing to me is going back to the WVU game and the Louisville game, watching those two. And everyone knows me historically as Pitt's hype guy. I'm very positive. I was utterly dejected. The team was playing flat. I questioned the play calling. It's absolute. The juxtaposition of adding Mason to the lineup and watching, and Eric touched on this our last podcast. It's almost like he was the Energizer Bunny. It's like you're watching. I think that's the hardest part for me, is you're watching a completely different team, in particular with effort level as well. I mean, we could touch on the depth, the freshmen, I'll do that. But the big picture, I don't know if I've ever seen a bigger change of juxtaposition between a team that looked like they were dying at the vine, and I was dejected, and that takes a lot, and watching a team that has just been reinfused with energy and the grit yesterday. And I said this last podcast, I wanted to see when Magic Mason had some adversity. He had that yesterday. He bounced back the second half, and my God, he looked like Tom Brady. He was just poised, calm, his demeanor. And man, is he a gamer. And I'll say this, I'll touch upon it too, because Eric touched upon it. This freshman class is quite special.
Yes.
And when you look at the contributions, let's be real. 2 games ago, or if you stop at the Louisville game, I really thought Pat Narduzzi might be walking off the plank. Right now, if you're Pat Narduzzi and staff, there is a lot to build off of, and it's not just Magic Mason. You got players like Boozy, you got players, like Sean Lee that are just standing out right now in the secondary. So really exciting stuff, and it was just a great overall victory yesterday.
Couldn't agree more. And to your point, Harry and Eric, you brought it up as well. You look at the depth of this football team. We talked about it last year. That 6-game slide, the 5-game slide was more partly due to the injuries, but the lack of depth that was there because guys didn't have the experience. The guys have the experience this year. You're watching them step up. And I think Kendall Stanley, I mean, to your point, Harry, I agree. I think he's actually a better tackle, and I think what he's done is just solidified himself at that left tackle spot because he's so athletic. Watch that kid. When you watch tape, guys, and I watched the tape last night at 2:30 in the morning after I came back from my wedding last night. Let me tell you guys something. I was a little banged up last night, but I was playing. We had Thunderstruck going at the wedding. Let me tell you something. We were bumping like it was nobody's business. I mean, we were literally chanting "Hail to Pitt" at this wedding. It was great. But I watched this tape. You look at Kendall Stanley, man, his footwork reminds me a lot like that B.J. Williams, Lyndon Cooper, Ryan Bayer, a lot of great footwork. They're very aggressive, but very athletic. They can move. It's hard to get around those guys where you look at the bigger guys, especially, too, if you watch Florida State, them big guys, sometimes they just don't have that physical ability where they're able to have great footwork and move, especially on a dime. You're watching some of these Pitt offensive linemen right now, and how many times did Mason Hines just drop back and he had all day to throw? I watching the tape online and watching the game tape, watching the all 22. They talked about it multiple times. They're like, man, Pitt's offensive line, if you remember during the week, Florida State talked about, well, we're going to be able to get pressure on them whenever we want. It didn't work out like that. And when you look at it, Pat Narduzzi, who is not very shy of a microphone, especially when he's in front of one, he basically just threw a little bit of shade at Florida State's offensive line and said, guess what? I'll take my offensive line over their offensive line every day of the week, basically responding to the players on Florida State's side saying they're going to get as much pressure as they want when they pressure Mason. And guess what? We saw Mason take the pressure. You saw him elude pressure, throw down the football field. I mean, some of the throws that this kid makes at 18, guys, 18 years old. An 18-year-old should not be able to make those throws. And you look at it, and I tweeted it yesterday, the one thing I do give credit for to Pitt, there are plenty of times we miss on players. But when you look at Pitt's roster, look at the makeup of this roster. Pitt uses their eyeballs. They're not going to Rivals or 247 and looking at the ratings. They're doing their own evaluation on these players, saying, okay, does this guy fit my system? I can get as many 4-star guys as I want, but if they don't fit our system, we're not going to be successful. You're watching it across the league, watching it across multiple conferences now. And I think that really this staff has done a good job. You look at here, a super chat, John Waffle. Thank you, sir, for the $20 super chat. When Reed is healthy, this team is complete. They need to stop keeping him on the sidelines. Well, I mean, at the end of the day, they're not keeping him on the sidelines. I think, thank you again for the super chat, John. I can tell you this, he was not healthy up to this point. I had been told through numerous sources that he was almost going to be on, pretty much like a pitch count going into this football game. I found out on Thursday. I think that Desmond Reed is such a team guy that he wants to be out there. And I think he was performing at such a high level. They were like, hey, if he's healthy, let him go, because they don't want to lose him for the rest of the year. And I think what Pitt did for keeping him on the sidelines was probably the right thing to do. And, when Reed is healthy, it is a completely different team. I think in the time period that he was gone, you watched this team look really good against Boston College. There's a lot of, I think Joel Goff has done a really good job. I think Jakirian Boozy Turner, who continues to get better each and every week. But now having Reed back gives you those 3 options, allows you to have 3 different running backs that hey, can run this system, can trust into pass blocking, but now you really have a 3-headed monster where you are constantly being healthy. You're constantly having enough people in this football game to where, hey, on a dime, when we're moving, we're snapping the ball at every 10 seconds, I can have another running back go in there. I'm no longer worried about another guy that can't go in there. I just think that right now, things are really clicking at this point. And I think they continue to get better and better and better as the season goes on. And I think the defense, is the same exact way. It continues to get better. These injuries are allowing other guys where you're starting to pop up and start to see other guys really perform. Now imagine later on in the season when Zachary Crothers comes back, when Jaden Moore comes back, which I would expect after probably the bye week going into the final 3 games of the season. I wouldn't be shocked as we start to see him come back then. Zachary Crothers, Joey Zielinski should be back. And then you have Jaden Moore. Blaine Spires comes back. Your whole defensive end room eventually comes back. They're healthy. Your linebacker room comes back. Cruz Brookins should be back healthy this coming week against Syracuse. Everything's just clicking at this point. And I think to Harry's point, you saw a lot of more energy. I mean, we talked about it, and I was very critical of it, that in the first 4 games of the season, you kind of had a conversation with people and said, this team is not playing very hard. There's a lot of debate on that. The last 2 games, you're seeing a hyper focus into what's happening. And, I put a tweet out on X and said, hey, Pitt right now is 4-2. They just beat a top 25 opponent. There's no reason why fans should not show up in a couple weeks for the game against NC State, because this team is playing so well. Some people are saying, well, you're overlooking Syracuse. No, I'm not overlooking over Syracuse. But at the end of the day, Pitt should win that football game. But at the same time, though, even if they don't win that football game, you should still show up to see this kid play. I mean, he's that good. And guess what? We'll be very critical of Pitt if they don't play well against Syracuse, who has been struggling as of late. So we'll be able to talk about that as well. Brian Thompson here, to the Pitt fans and parents who also went to the game Saturday, which was their ton, by the way, I heard about. Great showing, even finishing with some strong mock tomahawk chops. That's awesome. That's awesome right there.
JJ,
Go ahead, Harry.
If I could quickly add, so Pro Football Focus showed, I think FSU, it was 38.6, so let's say 40%. They were actually blitzing 40% of the time.
Which is wild.
I watched the game twice, and I'm like, well, I didn't see that. And really, the O-line, I want to give them credit, nullified much of that rush. For all the talk, they looked like Tarzan, played like Jane. The other thing I'll say, John Waffle, I agree with his comment. You have a game changer in Des Reed, but what's amazing to me is I always toot his horn, but Boozy Turner is emerging as the same type of player, because I always kind of look ahead. I think once you lose this guy because he's so special, it's amazing seeing him step up. But you mentioned the D line, and one player I wouldn't mind staying long term at D end was Ghost Neal. He's starting to thrive at that position. You could make the argument he was the best D lineman out there yesterday. So even when and I think Crothers, by the way, is a stud. But when we get these guys back, to your point, it's depth. But if we keep one player in that position, I'd like to see Ghost Neal stay at D end. He's athletic enough where he's making an impact. So just a couple points I want to throw out there, but he stood out to me.
Couldn't agree more. And to your point, I think just with his athletic ability, normally a smaller guy at the defensive tackle position, I think with his speed, reminds me a lot, especially in the NFL, a lot of the smaller guys who have that athletic ability, but also can create that angle to come around the edge, especially to be very, very aggressive at the end position. JWM Adams, thank you for the super chat. Trying to find your comment in here. Oh, here we go. One of the most impressive performances coaching-wise we've seen in quite some time. I love the aggressiveness yesterday, and the 4th down calls on offense. The play calling was phenomenal. That was another thing that set the tone, and I think that it starts with coaching, and we've talked about it numerous of times. When Pitt started to move the football down the field in the first drive, and they said, hell with it, we're not kicking a field goal, we're scoring touchdowns today. One, the aggressiveness, but then the trust with the offense, with Mason and Pat Narduzzi having complete trust to just hand it off and say, hey, do what you want, call what you want to call. I just think that set the tone for the whole day to tell the rest of the team, hey, we're not messing around today. We're going to win this football game come hell or high water, whether they like it or not. And we're going to be aggressive. We're going to run it down their throat whenever we want to. And guess what? We're going to be aggressive through the air. We're going to be a passing attack where we're going to be ruthless through the air. And I thought they did a tremendous job yesterday. Eric, when you watched that first drive, in your mind, did you say, okay, Pitt's not messing around today, it's going to get serious? Or what did you think of that, especially, too, on those multiple conversions on 4th down?
It's a statement in the confidence they have in an 18-year-old kid. There was no blinking at all in that, and I believe it is a tone setter for the rest of the game and for the rest of the year. And there were multiple instances of that outside of the first drive. If you recall, after Kenny Johnson had the brain fart on the punt catch. We caught it like at the 1 yard line. Mason had that 22-yard scramble on 3rd and 6. Now the drive didn't really go anywhere, but it just moving the chains once kind of simmered down any potential momentum swing that FSU would have had. You take that, combining off what they did on the first drive, which you're talking about, JJ, you're seeing just a calm confidence as if he was a 28-year-old freshman, not an 18-year-old, like he's been around the block many times.
Yeah.
So it was, I watched the game on replay because I had some personal things to do and I wasn't able to catch it live. But when I watched it, I kind of give it that little, oh, hey, they're not even thinking about punting the ball. They're going down to Florida State to set a tone, and they're doing it with their freshman quarterback, and it was beautiful.
Couldn't agree more. And a couple other good comments here before we get into a little bit of game review. Our traditional weekly review that Eric is so kindly enough to, when he watches the games, we'll go through a little bit of tape here to show you how well Pitt produced in a number of different areas on offense, especially. But very good comment here from Gary. Kavir Baines-Marquez, a guy, again, a UC Davis kid transfer, has almost been as impactful as Cruz has been this season. When Brookins returns, we maybe have the best 1-2 safety combination in the country. And I think when you heard, especially on a number of different conversations on the TV, they talked about, obviously, our linebacker crew is truly impressive. It's truly second to none when you look at a guy like Rasheem Biles, who we were lucky didn't lose him, comes back into the football game. Obviously, you have Kyle Lewis, All-American. Braylon Lovelace is having himself an All-American season as well. You look across the board on the defensive side of the football, the back end, between the back end and the linebacker crew, it's been impressive. The defensive line, I think with all the injuries, you're trying to get your footing. I think the bread man, Jasir Whittington, is just finding different ways to get on the football field. And you're looking at him and a guy who's able to produce at a high level. He's going to be a special football player here in this system. And I've said it before. A lot of these players are doing extremely well because of the system. The system is very aggressive. You put them in another system, they may not perform as well. So that's why I think it's a lot of times a really good handshake between they're recruiting players who fit this system. And Pitt runs an extremely downhill, physical style of defense, which, again, they talked about on the broadcast as well. They're like, why would you not want to play in this defense when it's just full-blown aggressive the entire time? It's allowing the playmaker to make plays. But we're going to go in. Go ahead.
I'm going to give Gary a lot of props because I have my notes here. This is where I throw all the things I want to talk about. And Kavir was one of them. I agree 100% with Gary. That was, just call it a standout game. I think he led the team in tackles. He was and let's just state the facts. Florida State has some big running backs, big tight ends. He's not the biggest guy, and he was taking them down. I talk about a coming out game. He came out in a big way. So I agree with Gary, and Gary stole one of my talking points.
Well, as we go into it here, before we switch over to the film tape, some of the things you wanted to talk about on there, I know you have a list of things. Go ahead and run through a couple of different things that you have on your list, because I know, one, you're just like us, but you watch plenty of different numbers of tape. So between a couple of different topics, I know you wanted to talk about Kavir Baines. Go into a little bit more about what you saw in this football game.
Well, no, like I said, just expanding on what I just said, when we brought him in as a transfer, the one thing I said he's not the biggest guy, and then they described him as undersized. And like I said, they have some really big backs, and it just didn't seem to bother him. He was inconsistently. And I think when Cruz comes back, you hate to see this kid come off the field because, to your point, you put him together, that's going to be one of the most formidable duos in the country. I think it'd be incredible. But no, that was the only thing I had to say. Like I said, I had that down because he just stood out to me consistently throughout the game. It was incredible.
Couldn't agree more. And another super chat here before we dive into the film. Will Z, thank you, sir, for another super chat. Great win. Now it's vital to win the gimme games with Syracuse, NC State, Stanford being subpar. Also, Bell needs to go after Quentin Martin and Tyke Hayes ASAP. We'll go into more of the stuff when we hit really the half-hour mark. We'll go into a lot of the stuff with Penn State and the stuff that I think Pitt needs to do moving forward and a number of different things if those guys do intend to hit the portal. But there's going to be a number of guys that you see across the board where there's going to be some guys that are available. And right now, Penn State's recruiting class between 26 and 27 has been eviscerated. But we'll slide over to that. But whenever we're done talking here about the Pitt FSU game. But wanted to dive into this pretty quickly here. Eric had a number of different great clips, and we're going to get into a couple of them here. Share my screen with you guys here. Share screen. And then we're going to go to here. So first up, this formation here, which I know, Eric, I'll let you go into the rest here, but a lot of success out of this formation. Go ahead. Take it away, Eric.
Yeah, there's this one, and then I just showed us a second clip of it. So this is a formation that I really like. Now, Pitt, if you guys have watched, obviously, all the games, you know they're high on 11 personnel, one back, one tight end look. What I liked about this is they're offsetting their tight end there to the bottom, like right behind the tackle to the outside shoulder or outside butt cheek, whatever you like to call, to call there. Now, I like this. They actually ran a few things out of this. First off, out of this formation, there were 2 plays where Des Reed caught those long balls, over the middle, because what that did is that forced, if you see along the 20-yard line, that linebacker scraping down, you put a linebacker one-on-one with Des Reed, Pitt's going to win that 99 out of 100 times.
Yeah.
They also then ran that same action on a critical third or fourth down. I can't remember if it was third or fourth. Then they ran a tight end shovel pass to the tight end. Cade Bell did a really, really good job of using this, and I think there's another picture. It's just the same formation, it's just a different down and distance. They used this 11 personnel with the offset. Yeah, it's the same thing, offset. They used this on 3rd and 2, and I believe this actually might have been the tight end shovel pass. This is not a film. I just want to show everyone as we're going through the season. Watch this 11 personnel, and then watch different people be that back or that offset back. Was it a tight end? So they can build off of this, and they can run a lot of different things off this set.
And to your point here, especially too, we've seen a number of times through the football game where the ball snapped. Obviously, it's Joel's Goff in the game here right now. He can easily go out for a pitch, whether it's a toss play, moving the defensive line out here, and then right here, like you pointed out, there's that tight end, beautiful, beautiful play design as well. 100%. The tight end, what's it called here? The shovel pass, the tight end shovel pass right here, where he just comes right through the offensive line here, and he has 2 options. I'm either doing a nice quick toss or doing a shovel pass right to the tight end. To your point, Eric, I mean, this is a great formation where you have a number of different plays, which you even described in it.
Yeah, to Eric's point, I didn't understand why the D coordinator for Florida State kept matching a linebacker up with Des Reed. How dumb are you? And he kept doing it over and over again. And Reed just blew by him every time. Yeah. So, no, you're right, Eric. I'm glad you showed that first formation because to Cade Bell's credit, if they're going to show weakness, just take advantage of it. And they did it consistently. It was really odd.
Yeah, and to one point about that, too, is a couple of times I believe Des Reed was on the other side of Mason and shifted over, so he was behind the tight end there. So it showed that looked like a predominant run formation. He shifts over, and then that linebacker walked out, and then next thing you know, they basically what they did is they forced the linebacker to cover Reed, and it was all over. Once you put Reed on a linebacker in space, like I said, Pitt's winning at 99 out of 100 times.
Yeah, and here's a play here.
Okay, so this is what again. This is actually in motion in a sense too. So Des Reed's actually going to come across the motion. This is one of his big catches, and I want you to watch the play, and then I want you to also watch the ball that Mason throws, and watch 31 for Florida State.
Watch it in full speed here.
Watch it in full speed and go back. And when you watch it in slow motion, you're going to appreciate this ball so much. Okay.
Gone.
He's gone, right? I think so. I don't know if we go back or if not. If you want to just go back and just walk it through. Let me see here.
Right through here. Here's a play design.
Yep,
which is really good.
Just as the ball's going here, let's see. Because this is the reason
going here.
But this is just so insanely good by Mason.
Also, too, just look at the switch here, Eric. To your point, watch the switch here. Whenever he comes across the line of scrimmage, switches up, hits his other mark up here.
Yep, keep being careful to not go upfield so you get called for a penalty. Okay, here we go. Keep this going in slow motion. And I'll tell you if you can hit stop. It's like that whammy game. Ready, Stop. Look at that ball and look at his hand.
Yeah.
Oh man, yeah.
That
The
when you
needle.
talk about a game of inches, but what that is, that's throwing the ball with a little bit of juice, and 31 just can't react fast enough. That was an impressive ball, and this is not the only one that I pulled from Mason yesterday. But that ball on TV, you're like, oh, he was wide open, and he was, but that was inches away from being deflected and just incomplete. Or you never know, he gets a bigger hand on it, could be tipped and intercepted. But
Yeah.
that
Look
ball
how,
was just anticipation, man.
and to your point here, look how tight that window closes. So here we are, a tenth of a second before. That pass is wide open right there. Easy. Should be an easy pitch and catch, right? And then to your point, Eric, watch how fast that window closes. He's now moving in that direction towards that play with Desmond Reed. And then just look at, he's firing that ball through there. Look at where his hand is and where that ball is.
Mm-hmm.
Unreal.
Unreal.
And then just let your playmakers make plays in space. Matchup. It's a game of matchups. And then just let Desmond Reed do the rest. Unbelievable.
Unbelievable. And you know what? Marlon Burns, truther there in the chat's got a really good point. It's actually one of the next videos that Mason's arm angles were truly ridiculous. 100% agree. And I got a clip to show you that. Two of my favorite throws were to Poppy Williams yesterday. And I believe, JJ, I think I sent you one that said arm angle.
Yep, right here.
Yep, right there. So, yeah, let's watch this one. Okay, so
First off, start from the beginning.
You know what? By this one, let it play, and then it cuts to a different view at the end of this clip.
Okay.
Okay, so if you watch this, and then after he catches it and goes down, I'll have you pause it. Okay, so pause it right here. So you can see, okay, now this is where you're talking about. Watch Mason's arm angle and watch how he keeps his eyes down the field. This should not be an 18-year-old kid. Okay.
Keeping his eyes downfield.
He looks to run, right? Look, he sees Poppy coming open. But you know what? Zero's right there. I'm going to run. Poppy does a great scramble drill, and he just sits for him. But look how his arm angle changes because of 97 or 93. Gives it that little sidearm.
That's great perspective from that angle. That's awesome.
By the way, you can teach that, but most of that's instinct.
Just
Eric, if I could
play.
add, he did I tweeted about this last night when we tied up 21-21. He had a similar sidearm throw for the touchdown that was obscene. I could not believe a freshman, and it was almost the exact type of play.
Mm-hmm. Look, he keeps the ball, keeps a throwing motion. He basically resets with the ball in his arm. Boom. Throws. He kind of gives it a Brett Favre throw, but when you're throwing, this is something where he plays in structure so well that these out of structure type plays are the gimmies. But look, it's a nice tight ball right on the money, and Poppy knows what to do. Just get down. I'm not going to take a hit. I got the first. Get down.
Just the velocity on it too at that angle.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, that's like your point, like just Brett Favre-esque. Just finding a way to get around certain guys. Right arm angle.
Yep.
Drops it, throws it.
And got one more video, and then one more picture. But if you want to save it, because it's more about the offensive, we can circle. This actually might be my favorite throw. Again, to Poppy Williams. You can see on a 1st and 10 here. Just watch it.
Just
a laser.
Throw. I mean,
that's arm strength. A laser right in the zone. Poppy is doing. He had a very, very good game over the middle. But I love that throw because that's anticipation. You put your back foot in and you rip it. Okay,
just right here to your point.
Yep, little hitch. And then, actually a couple hitches. But watch this.
Yeah.
It's a grip and rip.
Yep.
Beautiful.
Just firing the ball right in there.
And hit him right in his chest. Don't make him reach. Put it on his body so he can protect himself. It's just an all-out great throw. You know what? When I watched this game, gentlemen, and again, I watched it late last night and a little bit and some this morning before the NFL started. We hear a lot of, Mason's the best thing for Pitt since Kenny Pickett. Obviously, that is true. Then he's like, he's comparing to Kenny Pickett. And I get the whole true freshman thing. And maybe it's the number. But when I'm watching Mason play, I'm seeing Baker Mayfield.
Yeah.
That's who that's who his game reminds me of.
I would take that all day. Right now.
Yep. There's a lot of swagger into his game. And to your point,
swagger, it's the grit, the way he runs, and he doesn't slide. He runs to get the first down. He's ripping these balls. He's doing those that quirky throw he threw to Desmond Reed where he was like twisting in the middle of the air and all that stuff like a Baker does, and I love it. It's just true grit.
And especially here too, to your point, Eric, one of the things you talked about before, the offensive line. Look at Lyndon Cooper. He's got his assignment. He's making sure no one else is coming. He says, you know what? I'm not a viewer. I'm a participant, baby. Come here. Boom. Get off me. Yeah. I'm not here to be in the stands. I got a lot of love, but I got a lot of violence. Boom. Just get off of him.
Oh, yeah.
Just back to being, just the way they're playing right now up front, these last two games, it's just been something. Just the absolute corrections these guys are making. The greatest offensive linemen, and especially when I heard it from Bill Fralick, the offensive linemen that love violence are the guys you want. Wrestlers, the guys who love violence. Embrace it. I think you had one more here too.
Yeah, I want to give I put this in there for two reasons. It's a picture. I'm sorry, it's a video. Before you press play, this is indicative of what you gentlemen were talking about, the offensive line play. And I know Kenny Johnson had a little bit of a rough day outside that 142-yard scramble pass he caught off of Mason.
Yeah.
So this is the winning touchdown. So as everybody watches this, obviously the line did a great job. But do me a favor on this first go round when everybody's watching it. Watch Kenny Johnson the entire way, please.
Kenny Johnson's right here for everybody viewing the show right now. This is Kenny Johnson. Watch him here coming in motion.
Don't take your eyes off of him. This is a wide receiver.
Lead blocker. Look at this.
Look at this. Sealed him. Got to give Kenny his, as the kids say, give his flowers for that. That is a wide receiver as a lead blocker. Not many wide receivers will stick their nose up a hole like that and hit somebody. And as the lead block and Turner just walks into the end zone. No, great. The offensive line also did a great job. Who's that? Is that 82 down there? Yeah, the 82 does a good job of putting the guy outside, turning 28.
Malachi Thomas. Yep. Malachi Thomas making sure he gets the outside edge.
Yep. He turns 28, and Kenny Johnson does a great job with a lead block. And
if anything, probably should have been hands to the face here. Look at Malachi Thomas getting inside edge, turning his guy out, creating a lane here for Kenny Johnson to run through.
Mm-hmm.
As you know, I think as Eric, as you talked about and Harry talked about, just the execution that you're watching this team perform at on the offensive side of the football has been something to watch these last 2 weeks. Just look at how clean this is, and especially too to all the fans that watch the show. How many games that we've gone through in the red zone where we saw procedure penalties, and when you look at the game of football, procedure penalties should never happen. You're the one that knows the play; they don't. You shouldn't have procedure penalties. And we didn't see any of those procedure penalties. And just look at the execution.
It's insane. As a former receiver, man, I have to tell you what, that's something I would have done as well. But with Kenny, I just appreciate that so much when a wide receiver goes in there and sticks his nose in. And not only does he does it effectively, not just getting in the way and then running back ends up running up his butt because he gets knocked out. He got a good seal block there, and it was beautiful. It's beautiful to see.
Couldn't agree more. And our last thoughts on this game, Harry, again, when you watch this game, again, it's now 2 in a row. Got a top 25 win. Now Pitt moves on to Syracuse. Do you think with the momentum that they have right now when you're watching this football team, and I think collectively, we talked a little bit about the defense, all the injuries on defense right now. They certainly did enough, to win. Gave up 21 points in the first half, only 10 points in the second half. So they improved in the second half, which is pretty incredible in itself. When you look at this team right now, do you think with the momentum, with Mason, how the team's playing, a winning streak, do you think they go into Syracuse and really continue this trend?
I have to say yes. I'm again awestruck looking at how far they've come in 2 games. And we have to think about just the overall fundamental question. You have to remember, Eli was brought in, but he wasn't recruited by Bell.
Yeah.
And I vilified, in all fairness, and I vilified Bell 2 podcasts in a row, that
And
he
you both.
found his quarterback and he recruited Mason for this system. And what the epiphany that I basically had watching this game was, you know what? This is how it's supposed to be run. And, and you mentioned execution, they're executing. So if they execute, they limit turnovers especially when you're on the road. I see no reason why we can't win 3 in a row and get some momentum and get some more AP votes towards top 25, because they're really, really on a roll right now. I see no reason why they can't win against Q's.
Couldn't agree more. And to Eric, to your last thoughts, you watch the tape, you look at this team, and obviously a number of different comments coming through here, especially for the defensive line here. I think I just had up here a second ago. Good comment here. I thought someone on D-line needed to step up, and that's really where the questions were lying yesterday, is how well would the defensive line play when you're down to your 6th, 7th, 8th, and 9th defensive linemen. Mway 96 says here, I thought someone on the D-line needed to step up badly with how thin we were, and Nick James did that. Yeah. He was outstanding and really helped contain Castellanos and stop the run late in the game. Eric, watching this defensive line yesterday, especially in the second half, how well do you think they played? Did they play up to the standard? But also, do you think, even with the guys they're missing, do you think they continue what they're doing right now with being able to stop the run like they have, especially in that second half, as they transition into the Syracuse game?
Yes, I do. I do think they need those additional bodies back that you were talking about, because they play so fast, so disruptive. You don't want to see a tweak here or somebody go down, and the depth becomes a little bit more of a question. But I say that, and Pitt keeps rolling these guys out, and they keep performing. To me, the D-line and the comment about Nick James, I agree. He played a really, really good game. They led the pursuit charge, if you will, around FSU, because I'm going to tell you who else I was very impressed with tackling in the run game was the secondary.
Yeah.
Harrison made that big forced fumble at the beginning of the fourth quarter that I thought, because Florida State was driving, you had a couple runs by their big freshman running back, 32.
Yeah.
I think it was Chroma, I believe his name is.
Yeah.
But then Harrison comes in and forces that fumble. 4 jumps on it, and they stall that drive. I believe Pitt goes down and ties the game there. But it was 24-21. And the reason he was able to come in and force the fumble, because the Florida State back kind of had to tiptoe a bit, because the D-line was just wrecking the running lanes. It was a big collective issue. The pursuit on the defense was phenomenal, but it did all start with the defensive line's performance.
Eric, and that turnover too, I believe that FSU has no spine. I just my 2 cents. And I believe at that point, and I do believe, by the way, Pitt may have put the nail in Mike Norvell's coffin. I think it's worth mentioning. But that turnover was big, because I think that was the oh shit moment for Florida State. I think they start feeling it. Because at that point, Eric, I can't remember. You're right. We either tied it or we kicked the field goal to go ahead, one of the two. But it just felt like a momentum shift. Like, you were bringing it. We stopped you, and we came back and answered with points. And it just felt like a pivotal moment in the game.
Yep, 100%.
I couldn't agree more. And to all of your points there, this team, and again, I'm not naive in saying, there's plenty of different things that this team needs to clean up. There are other things that needs to happen. It could have swung one way or the other, but it didn't. And I think that the way this team is producing right now, it's gaining momentum. And I think that there's a couple other things here and there that we're seeing the coaching staff be better as well. Because it's not just the players, it's the coaching staff as well. And someone that, for me personally, I have been an advocate and very critical of Pat Narduzzi and how he does things on a consistent basis, especially his game day coaching. I thought he did a great job yesterday. And I think that the credit needs to be, what's right is right, what's wrong is wrong. And he deserves a lot of credit for what yesterday looked like. They sit here at 4-2, and I understand the fan base that's in here. They should be 6-0. And I agree. And they were bad play by the quarterbacks, offensive line, running backs, defense, coaching. I mean, stupidity in coaching, and the losses to West Virginia, who is probably right now one of the worst, if not the worst now, Power 4 program in the country, as they've lost now, 3 games in a row. They had a bye week. They'll be back next week as they get back on the schedule. But you look at these games, and, the Louisville game should never been a loss. There was just bad play, bad special teams, bad quarterback play, bad play calling across the board. But these last 2 games have really shown when this, the scheme does work. That's number one. When you have the right quarterback in there, it clearly does work. The offensive line, when they're in unison, it clearly does work. Even with a 6-string defensive lineman and beyond, the defense plays well. And you're looking at a team where you're facing, I wouldn't even want to say less talent. I think Pitt has a lot of talent, especially going into the season, which is why I predicted them to win 8 to 9 games, if not more, if things went correctly. I think that this team needs a lot of props for being able to turn it around, because in the age of college football, it's not what you did for me yesterday, it's what you did for me today, which leads me into our next topic, and it's a crucial one, and one that could have a lot of dominoes affecting it. Penn State fires James Franklin, a $57 million buyout that goes to him, a $9 million buyout that goes to the defensive coordinator as well, Jim Knowles, who came over from Penn State. A astronomical move from a money standpoint. This will be the second largest buyout in college football history. Number one was Jimbo Fisher and the Texas A&M Aggies at $76 million, which they're still paying today. Jimbo Fisher, obviously, it reminds me of the meme with Ed Orgeron. He said, when they fired him, the only question they said, Coach, do you have any questions? He said, yes. Which door do you want me to go out of and when you want me to go? That's the only thing that they're asking at that point when you're making that much money, especially on a buyout. So big money being thrown around right now. Their 2027 class we've seen today has been eviscerated. It is now gone. I mean, there is no 2027 class. The 26 class has been eviscerated. A number of guys have dropped off already. It is an astronomical move. And it really goes to the point where I tried to tell people this a couple weeks ago when people talked about the Pat Narduzzi stuff, which, again, he's certainly not out of the woods yet. Pitt's 4-2 right now, but he's got a long way to go, too, because the one comment I loved in here, what are they going to do with the games, the gimme games? The games are supposed to win. Syracuse is one of those football games next week. They got to win that game. NC State is one of those football games. You got to win that game. Stanford, you better win that game, because that is a team that is absolutely struggling. But they had a good win this past week. They obviously got a $50 million donation from a former player, which if Stanford wanted to get in the NIL, arms race, they'll probably be pretty effective because they got a lot of good alumni. But you look at the way college football is designed right now. A report came out earlier from a reporter that talked about how Adidas was really the one pushing behind the scenes of firing James Franklin. I have contacted a number of different people through sources. That is not true. This is not a decision based on Adidas, which I would have had concerns about, because executives outside the organization, and Eric, you had a great point as well, as through your tweet, it should never be that way. We are running the organization in-house, not the executives on the outside. Now, I've talked to enough people to know that is not true. That is not what happened. This is a buildup of multiple years where I think James Franklin, which at the end of the day, I do not agree with firing a coach midseason. I don't care who they are. But the fact that they fired a head football coach who was in the college football semifinals last year. Now, don't get me wrong. The guy's a dick. I've known plenty of people within the organization up at Penn State, whether it's baseball, football. They've met the guy. He's not exactly the most swell guy in the world. But guess what? You judge a guy based off of how many wins he brings. He's averaging 10 to 11 wins a year. You're in the college football playoff a year ago. Possibly the easiest road to get to the national championship. Still was in there, won a game. Won 2 games. SMU and Boise State lost to Notre Dame in the college football semifinals. One, I'm shocked that he got fired the way he did, because there's just a lack of respect for what he did there. Even for what people could think, myself and other people outside the program, there's a lack of respect there because of what he did build and the constant winning. Because at the end of the day, proof's in the pudding. Joe Paterno was not doing that in his final, really 5 to 6 years. He was not doing that. They were not a good performing program. Bill O'Brien comes in for a year, really stabilizes that thing, which I thought in the time period, he did a hell of a job, even with all the sanctions that were there. But James Franklin, when you look at a constant success period of what it looked like, he actually did a great job. And I think that the names that I'm hearing, I'm going to throw them out right here through industry sources, especially if you look up anything, but a number of sources who I've talked to, One, I don't think that Penn State is going to get a coach who recruits better than James Franklin, and a guy that was consistently top 15. But the names through betting odds and people that I've talked to, you've got names like Matt Roll up in Nebraska, who would be a downgrade, in my opinion, from James Franklin. Yep. Number 2 would be Matt Campbell out of Iowa State. He's a guy that's performed well at Iowa State, obviously, which is an extremely tough place to win, especially with the no recruiting grounds up there. Former head football coach of Toledo as well, but he's been at Iowa State for a number of years. Next up is Manny Diaz, who's the defensive coordinator there, but he's struggling down at Duke. He was an average head football coach at Miami. He's doing an okay job right now down at Duke, but if you can't win at those places, how are you going to win at Penn State? Then you have on here Kurt Cignetti, who I've talked to enough people. He is not looking to leave Indiana. I think that, from anybody that I've talked to in the know, why start over? That was the question that was presented to me. Why start over? You already have more top 10 wins this season than James Franklin had in his entire career at Penn State, which is absolutely bewilderment to me that that's even a possible stat. Next up that I was told about is Eli Drinkowitz, the head football coach at Missouri, because of, even though they have a lot of NIL, would he potentially want to leave Missouri to go to the Big Ten and have a better shot? That's still questionable. Clark Leah of Vanderbilt, because of the job he's done there. Will Stein, offensive coordinator, Oregon. Lance Leipold, the head football coach at Kansas. And last but not least, Joe Brady, who was a very popular name 3-4 years ago in the national title run with LSU, the offensive coordinator, and Joe Burrow, but right now the offensive coordinator with the Buffalo Bills in the National Football League. So, gentlemen, when you heard this news, first up, Harry, when you heard this news, what were your initial thoughts? Do you think it was a good firing? Do you think it makes sense, or are they just going off the wall in the complete wrong way?
I was absolutely astonished, and maybe I'm old school. And I by the way, when it was looking ugly for Pitt, I was mentioning this. I thought that Pat Narduzzi deserved respect. I actually believe that he deserved better than to be fired mid-season. My second thought was Franklin is going to leave a rich man, and 2, he's going to be rehired very quickly. There are programs now nationally that are going to be wanting to add him in a rapid fashion. But it's absolutely astonishing to me that this happened. And I saw many reports that said they're going to start with Matt Roll. And then my thought was, well, that's great. That's a downgrade. What the hell would you be thinking? You're upset about a head coach that, quote unquote, couldn't win the big game. Roll, that's the same tagline he's getting in Nebraska. Not to mention, He hasn't exactly set it on fire there. What could you be thinking? I don't believe Cignetti will leave, because your point, he's building something special there. Right. And then, you look at the rest of the coaches that are there, there's no one that blows me away. I guess the point being, if you're going to make that move and shell out that much money, you damn well better have an upgrade ready to go. I don't see one. And
neither do I.
And in the age of NIL, on top of losing already the recruiting class, you know that in the period of time when they could transfer, you lose a ton of players. So I don't understand the logic in the firing right now. I think they made a bad move. And I can't believe I'm talking nicely about James Franklin, but I am. So there you go.
Me and you both, and I think it's it's hard to talk anything good about James Franklin, but you got to give him this credit when the credit's due. And to your point, can they get someone better? And I think that the majority of people, even across industry wise, Tom Fornelli, who works for CBS Sports, recently put out there as well. He goes, it's not about what you did yesterday; it's about what you did today. And when you look at Indiana and the Penn State job, Indiana may be a better job right now because of what they're doing there. He has all the money that he needs. Indiana, he's getting the players that he needs. He's got more top 10 wins than James Franklin had his entire tenure. It's really what you're looking for. And a guy at 67 years old, is that even your best bet? I think why would you start over? And that was a great question presented to me from a source. Why would you start over? Why would you go to a Penn State team where they're going to get eviscerated in the portal coming up very, very quickly here? It's going to get very ugly. The portal's open for 15 days instead of 30 days now. That was a new change for the fans that don't know this. It was 30 days originally when a team or players wanted to go into the portal when a coach got fired. That is now 15 days. It's cut down from 30 to 15 days. And the portal is open from January 2nd to January 16th, I believe. So it's roughly 2 weeks. in the beginning of January when the portal does open up. It's going to be interesting because I think that they don't realize what's currently there. But I understand why they are frustrated. I mean, the resources that they put into this team this year, they welcomed it. I mean, he did it to himself also on this. They said they were a national championship contending team. I got news for you. Myself, I have been ridiculed from a number of Penn State people that when I said that Drew Aller is not the quarterback that people think he is, I was proven right. He has not played well. He's now out for the season. I mean, he has not played well in any big game. And now in the games that aren't even big, he doesn't play well in those games. Nope. And I think that when you put yourself on that pedestal that, yes, this is the one that he said it himself, this is the best collective of teams, the best collective of players and coaches that I've had in my career, not even just Penn State, anywhere. And then to play like they have, where they have not even beaten a Power 4 team yet this year, is concerning. And it's not even just like you lost to Wisconsin. Well, I mean, Wisconsin's doing horrible. It's not like you lost to Iowa, who's always a tough out, or Michigan, or Ohio State. You lost to Oregon. Okay, hey, it's the big game. You still can't win the big game. Okay. Then you lose to UCLA, who was 0-4. And the offensive coordinator was so used to being a position coach, he forgot to bring down his mic to call a play on numerous plays, including the 4th and 1 at the end of the game where Nico pretty much called his own play. He ran his own play.
And I said this before, you can't lose to a coach that has hair like Neuheisel. I'm just going to say that publicly. You can't do that. You just can't.
Never called plays in his life. Yeah. Had 2 days to prepare, and you're paying a defensive coordinator $3.1 million, and they don't have a spy on Nico until middle of the fourth quarter? I mean, the coach, that's just coaching malpractice. Now, is it enough to say, hey, you should fire the guy? Maybe not midseason. I completely against it midseason because now you've eviscerated any type of recruiting class you have. You're going to have people leave. To Pitt's expectations, I can assure you there are going to be guys who enter the portal and Pitt will be on them. There are a number of players from the Whippeal that are on that football team who want to stay closer to home. I would not be shocked if you see towards the end of the season into the offseason, depending upon what Pitt does, whatever the season turns out to be, if it continues its ride, it's on. But this firing truly actually puts pressure on Pitt because now you have the option. You have either two options now. You either go all in with NIL, and in the age of college athletics, you are in there completely 110%. You are bought into what's being there. You keep Narduzzi, you keep Kate Bell, everyone's there, and you go all in and start going after players within the portal and also in the recruiting classes and go all in and really produce where Pitt has the resources. And they either do it or they don't, or the season falls apart, which we hopefully does not happen, and then you just completely just clean house and then go all in. I don't think Pitt fans understand that this has really created more pressure on Pitt to say, hey, there's no stabilization right now to your crosstown rival, and there's an opportunity to pounce on this. The other opportunity was in 2021, and Pat Narduzzi and Heather Lyke thought this stuff was going to go away. Well, here we are. You have an opportunity right now. And if you don't take advantage of it and you don't make a move, you can't blame anybody but yourself. And if you're for football and you're for winning, now's the time to prove it. It is that simple. The lack of stabilization across the board now allows you an opportunity to go after a lot of these players. A quick super chat here from John Waffle. Again, $20 super chat. Thank you again. Mark Rogers is a clown. He says Urban is the number one candidate. To be honest with you, Urban gets sick every 2 years and then he goes back into coaching. I mean, to be honest with you, who knows? I mean, he may be a candidate, but he's a guy that I think he's so comfortable. Would he want to go against Ohio State again? That's the problem. And I don't think he would. You never say never, but I don't believe Urban Meyer would be a guy that would go back into coaching to face his alma, really his old school where his reputation at Ohio State is tremendous. Going against them every year would only hurt them. And I think only hurt his reputation, which, by the way, his reputation is not very good right now with the way that he left the Jacksonville Jaguars, which was an absolutely disgrace across the board in coaching. I think he needs to do a better job. He's doing a great job with big noon kickoff. He needs to stay there, worry about that. But thank you for the super chat. Eric, when you saw this firing, Your initial thoughts when, okay, hey, does this make sense? Or, oh my God, what are they doing?
Why?
Yeah.
I look at it this way, and I have some good friends that are Penn State alum and, Penn State friends and such. And the reason I raised my hand when you were talking about, Drew Aller, I made a comment last year from the spring game that I didn't like about Drew Aller. You're in a spring game with the red shirt on. There's a guy 3 yards from you, and he's throwing off his back foot from a clean pocket. I said, the guy has the physical ability. It's just not up there. He's not a very good quarterback right now. Doesn't mean he can't be, but he's not right now. You would have thought that I called some of these guys as mothers a really nasty name the way they looked at me.
Yeah.
Like, how dare I criticize Penn State?
Yeah.
How dare I say anything negative on it because I'm just a hater? Which brings me to a point. You're talking about the Indiana coach. Yeah, why would he leave? Because I think right now at Indiana, there's an appreciation for what he's doing.
Yeah.
I think at Penn State, because they are a big brand, right? They're in, you can win 8, 9, 10 games and not be appreciated, which again, we listen, the jokes are Franklin can't win a big game, and we get it. I think this firing was a culmination. There was probably some personal things said behind closed doors that was some personal issues that pulled this trigger. Because you're right, you don't win the big one, but you're at least in these bowl games every year for big payouts. Yeah, they went far in the playoffs. Obviously, that's not going to happen this year. So they're bringing money into the school. There's not an appreciation. I get it. They want to move on. But if you want to move on and do it in the right way, you do it in the offseason. I think they really made the wrong move in firing in season. Because I'm going to tell you right now, there's already talking to players with the players in the locker room like, we got to get out too.
Mm-hmm.
We have to get out. And it's not just the incoming classes like you were talking about, JJ and Harry. It's going to be the players that are already in there like, where can I go? Because I believe that, that second wave of recruiting is going to kick in big time where now people are going to look to poach from Penn State. And it's going to get ugly, and it's probably going to give them a 3 to 4 year downturn at least, I would think. And I don't know recruiting like you guys do, but I think it's going to take a while for them to build back up because who knows who they're going to get.
And to that point, you're going to be spending millions and millions of dollars. I mean, across the board, just to fire the coaching staff.
Yep,
it's very different, and I'm telling this to people because it's very different. Arkansas, you fire midseason because you're not a good football team. Okay, you don't have a lot of talent on that football team. You make that move. Oklahoma State, you fire that head coach. You fire Mike Gundy because it's the middle of the year. At the end of the day, should they have fired him at the end of the year? I agree, because I think for what he's done, he also played it at Oklahoma State. The lack of appreciation there is absolutely bewilderment to me. I can't believe that actually happened. UAB fired, Trent Dilfer today. That makes sense. UCLA fired Deshaun Foster. That makes sense because of what happened there and how much of a travesty that was.
Yeah.
But all of those teams are not good. And right now, Penn State might not be good. But you look at the overall resume that's there, I don't know how you justify firing a guy mid-season, when just the previous year, not just the previous year in college football playoffs, 2 weeks ago, you were the third-ranked team in the country. Now, was that probably an overranking? More than likely, because we've certainly seen how the way the team plays. But to think that, okay, well, if he's in year 12, okay, you have a downplay like this because of all the expectations, what are you telling other coaches? Okay, so if I have a bad year, I'm going to get fired then. So, I mean, it's Penn State is a big brand. It is a national brand. Is it a top 10 job in college football? I don't think it is. I think it's a lot harder to recruit there than what people think. I think James Franklin wasn't appreciated. And the question comes down to as well, does Pitt make a phone call? Which, again, I highly doubt it would happen because, one, he would not want to work for Pat Narduzzi. A lot of coaches don't like Pat Narduzzi to begin with, but do you bring back the Brinks truck and try to go after what's his name?
Terry Smith.
Terry Smith, because of the whippeal. Do you go after Terry Smith? Do you go after Bob Palko? That's what I'm going to ask you, Harry.
You know what? And I was going to throw this out. First of all, let me say this. I know Bob well. Bob is a leader of men. I'm a big Bob Palko guy. Both Eric and I are West Allegheny guys. My son played for the football team. They didn't get a chance to play for Bob, but It's ironic that two guys from Western Pennsylvania, Terry Smith and Bob Palco, are there. They're both quality guys, quality coaches. Bob's there more in a supportive end, where Terry obviously is taking over as an interim.
Mhm.
I would open up the Brinks truck if Smith would be willing to come back in any sort of role. Now, I will tell you, our friend Carlos Zovko might be able to address it better as to why neither of them ended up on staff with Pitt. I will never quite understand that, but let me say this. Both would automatically enhance the staff, even if you put Bob in a supportive role. And what I love
Yeah.
about Bob, there's no Oprah bullshit. Bob is
Yeah.
a straightforward. I have watched my son twice stand a foot away from him, and Bob has a move. He hits you. It's like a kung fu move right in the back, right in the chest. And I've watched him speak to my son for over a half hour, and Max wanted to run through a wall when he was done. So they're actually, for the interim, are in good hands with those two amongst the others. You're asking me, what would I do? Hell yeah. I would open up the Brinks truck if I could get one or both over to the staff. To your point, I don't know what the relationship is like with Narduzzi or any of them, but they would be an asset to the Pitt program.
I couldn't agree more, and I think that to your point as well, I think it'd be a long stretch because one, he's a Penn State guy through thick and thin. Are there conversations going on behind closed doors to say what would happen? I know there's certainly plenty of connections between Pitt and Penn State, and what those conversations look like between players and who's hitting the portal and who's not. I guess we'll only know who really hits the portal. Does Pitt contact these guys? But to your point, heck, Bob Palco, I didn't get, obviously I didn't get to play against him or play for him, but he was here at Mount Lebanon for 4 years. In his second year, he goes undefeated in the Whitfield, wins a Whitfield title. He goes undefeated in the playoffs and the PIAA playoffs, and wins a state title in his second year at Mount Lebanon. If that doesn't tell you what kind of coach he is, and if you talk to anybody, where I talked to a number of people around the Mount Lebanon program, the guy was elite. Now, obviously, politics after 4 years, politics gets into play. Parents ruin it, and that's kind of where we are. And that's a whole nother story, which I talked about that on Eric's show about just the Whitfield, where it is with parents and whatnot, and just allowing coaches to coach and allowing coaches to pick who can play and who really can't play. But he's a natural born leader. And I think that if you talk to Tyler Palco, his son, who was a tremendous athlete, for everyone that doesn't know, if you live under a rock, a tremendous football player at Pitt, is beyond loved at the University of Pittsburgh. Heart of hearts, if you were to ask Tyler Palco, do you want to see your father head back to Pitt and just have one final ride with Pitt and really help out the athletic department this time at NIL? I think he would die for that. I personally do believe he'd love to see his dad work for the program that really he helped historically build. I mean, during those years with Walt Harris, what he was able to do on the offensive side of the football will never be appreciated enough. I mean, that guy was through thick and thin one of the best offensive minds, and to this day, people want to know Walt Harris is around the football program a lot, and he's always welcome back. And that's one of the biggest things I've told people from the beginning of time. Pitt needs to do a better job of bringing back every bit of alumni, because that's what it is. You go to Pitt, it's not a 5-year decision, it's a 50-year decision. That's the facts. Pitt has truly one of the best in terms of just historical runs across the board. Is second to none. And I think that when you look at the situation that Pitt's in, if they want to continue to grow, if they keep Pat Narduzzi, depending upon how this season goes, that is a decision where, do I think it would happen? I highly doubt it. Money does speak. We'll see what that looks like, and it'll give it an opportunity here. But I would be shocked if that next head football coach at Penn State doesn't retain him. I would be absolutely floored. I mean, he is an absolute staple up there. He is absolutely dominated in the area of Whitfield recruiting. And it's going to be fun to see how this team plays out. And personally, I bet you right now there's Penn State alumni. This is an audition right now. He's got, they've played, they're 3-3. He's played 6 games. He's got 6 games left. This is an audition at this point. And if he performs at a high level, there will be some donors who want to see him coach there. Now,
well, to his credit, if you notice, JJ, if on a lot of these lists, to his credit, he's being listed as a candidate. And it shows great respect, in my opinion, for someone that's an assistant right now. So, I think he is in the mix.
I couldn't agree more. And I think that's why when you look at it, I think it makes the most sense as to why he is a candidate. I think it's probably a good thing. But I think that with Pat Kraft involved, and who is from every bit of information I've gathered here today, and again, it's the beginning. We're not going to know who's hired here in the next really month and a half.
Right.
Pat Kraft is very much involved with Matt Rule. And Matt Rule was a major factor when he was at Temple. They both worked together at Temple when he was the AD there. Matt Rule was also one of the main reasons why Pat Kraft got this job at Penn State. From everything that I've heard, I think he's a strong number one candidate, and I think that would be a horrific move. I mean, the guy has all the resources at Nebraska. They have all the money in the world at Nebraska. They have it's the same fan base. I mean, they show, if anything, it's better than Penn State. They show up. It doesn't matter if they're 0-12 or 12-0. That place is packed to the gills at 100,000. I mean, it's Nebraska, Penn State. There's nothing else to do out there. They're going to a football game on a Saturday. It's 100% guaranteed. Obviously the fans really didn't know. I saw a lot of the images from from this past week at Penn State. There was a lot of people that were pissed off and certainly did not show up to that game, but probably for good reason. But John Waffle here, another super chat. The thing is, State College in the middle of nowhere. If you're not Drool, PA, or don't know the demographic, you're not going to succeed at Penn State. Possibly, I think that, who knows? Because Joe Paterno was there for how many years, how many decades? We just don't know. Bill O'Brien goes there, stabilizes it. I think goes 7-5 in his first year, but can't handle all of the presidents, the donors about being Joe Paterno. He leaves, and now here we are 12 years later. Has that moved out to where they want to take those guys? That's the question. I meant to stay in PA. Yeah, I mean, who knows? But at the same time, their talent pool, who they're going to pick, can they get better? Can they get better than James Franklin? I don't know, because James Franklin, I give him credit. Not a great game day coach, but that guy can recruit with the best of them. I know Stephen Keel, probably a Penn State guy here, a little upset. We'll let him simmer for a little bit. It's okay. We're all there for you. Marlon Barnes, Rojas went down. The defense fell apart. Crazy. I suppose a team that could go 3 deep, according to Franklin. That was another question that I thought was pretty wild too. Is that when he made that comment about against UCLA, they said, "Why didn't you try other linebackers?" And he said, "Well, they weren't even an option to get on the field." That means lack of development. That's a scary response to say, "Hey, we couldn't get those guys in the field." That's lack of development. That's a problem. Max, Ohio State and WVU will be in the mix for those players in the portal as well.
Absolutely.
I mean, potentially. I mean, West Virginia has not been very successful getting Whitfield players. Obviously, they never have. The question with Penn State, the question with West Virginia at this point is, do they want to spend money or not? I mean, they were so far behind this year. They only spent roughly between $4 to $6 million on their roster. Pitt was in roughly the range of $14 to $15 million this year. I mean, that kind of gives you just a leeway between those two schools. Now go up to the Penn States of the world, or you look at Florida, who spent a ton of money this year. Oregon spent a ton of money. Ohio State, heck, they spent close to $25 million last year. It's in a whole different world of what people, and also Texas A&M. Look at Texas A&M and Mike Elko, what he was able to do at Texas A&M this year. Texas A&M now ranked top 3 in the country after 3 years of being there. And I told people this. They didn't want to hear this because, well, he was coaching at Duke. Well, if you can win at Duke, you can certainly win at Texas A&M with a lot more resources. And I was right. I mean, the guy can flat out coach. That's how good of a coach he is. The question is, at this point, can you get a better recruiter than James Franklin? I don't know if you can, especially when you go up to Happy Valley. I don't know. Is it a great job still? Heck yeah, it's a Power 4 job. It's in the Big Ten. You're supposed to be in the top 2 every single year, but are the expectations realistic? That's the question. And if you have national media members saying this job may not be as good as what people think, it's debatable. Now, I still think it's a great job. It's Penn State. You'll have a lot of resources. What do the resources look like when you're making all these buyouts? $800 million worth of renovations. From my understanding, I think it's all privately raised money through Penn State for the stadium. There's just so many questions there at this point. The question also is, recruiting is such a major factor, and obviously the resources is great. When you lose a lot of guys, Kurt Cignetti was able to rebuild that roster in a year, which is pretty crazy. But then you have the other portion of it where you've got the guys who have gone into their first years where, for instance, Rich Rodriguez, and I think with the limited resources that he has, It just doesn't look good this year. Bill Belichick, that is going to be another open coaching search because there's no way that guy survives. If that guy survives in a second year, I'm sorry, North Carolina, you can want to sue the ACC all you want, but guess what? Get ready for basketball season because you're a basketball school. I'm sorry. It just, that's comical that, and again, I'm a Patriots guy. I love Bill Belichick. That was never a great hire. That was absolutely embarrassing across the board. It should have never been hired, which, I wanted to ask you guys before we get on to the more Penn State stuff here, but the governor, John Waffle here, the governor of West Virginia says they're going to start funding players. I guess we'll see. Obviously, the state can't fund players. The school has to, but there's obviously guys keep it very calm in the chat. Obviously, let's not be attacking each other. Okay, I do appreciate the love for each one school, but let's keep it right. Civil. I know I see. Shut up, whatever, Steven, and go back to where. JW, hey, I appreciate you, JW Adams, but just. Everyone, let's bring the temperature down a little bit.
We're all do a little Oprah. Calm down, breathe.
Yeah, woosah.
Yeah.
Woosah. Marlon Barnes. I wanted to ask Harry because I know Harry and I know Eric's on my side about this too. But the North Carolina stuff, frankly, Carolina would be a perfect fit. I actually agree. Harry, your thoughts. I got to get your thoughts on this too because I am just totally against the North Carolina stuff. And it's funny that North Carolina and Florida State both struggling in the ACC, but think they're too good to be in the ACC. Harry, your thoughts on the whole, Bill Belichick experiment to this point?
So I have a Greek friend that's a reporter in the Carolinas. In fact, I wanted to choke him back in the day. He fed me the wrong name. I would have been the guy that broke Jeff Capel, and that was a big deal when we hired him.
Yeah.
So we spoke. And it has been an abject disaster. Belichick, well, first of all, let's state the obvious. He has a girlfriend 50 years his junior that has been disruptive. She's been on the field. She's taken away from the team. But beyond that, he's trying to run it like an NFL team. And there's little to no communication with the parents. The roster is fractured. There's a lot of infighting. It has been a complete total disaster. The last thing I'll tell you too is I do believe that coaches need to be leaders of men, as we just said. You eliminate Tom Brady and he's basically mediocre. And on top of that, Bill Belichick is the personality of a tree stump. Yeah. So, factor all that in. And to your point, when I was talking to my friend, it's just been a complete and total disaster. I can't fathom that he will be there year two. I believe his son is on staff, but I believe if Bill's gone, the son's gone too. I think what I see, Marlon Barnes, actually, that would be a good move. Carolina, I could see him gobbling up Franklin, but it has been a joke. Now, I will say Franklin did him a favor because up until that point, it would be the biggest disaster or the biggest storyline, in my opinion, in college football because of his background as a Super Bowl winning coach. Today trumped that, in my opinion, with this midseason firing of a team that looked like they could win a national championship. So what a fascinating football season we're having right now, in particular, all the headlines. But I cannot fathom that Belichick will be there another year.
I agree because it's been such a disaster. When your own players hate it, they're selling their own tickets that they get for allotment to give to their family. They're selling them. Eric, you played at a high level. When you see something as dysfunctional as this, one, the buyout's only $1 million. So kudos to them for structuring an actual decent buyout. Heather Light could have learned something about that, and same thing with Sandy Barber. But when you look at $1 million buyout, you see the situation at North Carolina where it's just an absolute disaster. It just looks just dysfunctional from beginning to end. In your opinion, do you move on from him? And then what are your thoughts of the whole Belichick experience?
Players nowadays, I believe, especially in college, there's relationships that are valued more than the school. Now, there's going to be outliers to that because there's going to be, hey, my dad went here, I want to go here. I want to be a Notre Dame guy. I want to be a Penn State guy. I want to be a Pitt guy. I want to be, whatever that may be. I think when you go in and you set you set the culture, players go and they follow coaches. They get recruited by coaches. These coaches are in their homes. So when you get this turnover or this turmoil, with Belichick, he's not a college guy because now he can't keep these guys here for practice for however long. He can't have them at 6 a.m. watching film and breaking things down. You know, it's amazing how great of a coach Bill Belichick is when he doesn't have Tom Brady.
Yeah.
So it was. I admire North Carolina for thinking outside the box. I don't know who initiated the conversation, but it's a failed experiment. Just like with the Steelers, you know, it was a failed experiment with Matt Canada at the NFL level.
Yeah.
Their coaches, and that's why Nick Saban didn't work at the NFL level, but he was obviously a Hall of Famer, possibly the greatest of all time in the NCAA level. Certain coaches fit a style of coaching or able to coach a style player. Yeah, because Harry hit it right on the head. You know, when you have a personality of a tree stump, you're not going to motivate 18, 19-year-old kids.
It's just never going to work.
This is not their job. They're there by choice. Yeah, I get the kneel. So yeah, it's just a failed experiment all over. You got to give them credit for trying, but they're going to have to just wipe their hands clean and move on to the next guy.
I agree, and you know, again, they're going to be in another search. You know, their last search was not exactly one to be desired for. They went after a number of guys. I know the guy they really wanted from everybody that I talked to was John Sumrall over at Tulane, but I think he's getting prepped, and I think he's getting ready to be in the SEC. That time is coming pretty quickly, I think, in my opinion. But when you see just across the board right now, I think it's been a bad experiment down there. They're going to certainly fire their coach, and to Harry's point, I think Florida State's going to be looking for a new head football coach as well. And you can bet your bottom dollar if he goes, Franklin will certainly be a candidate at Florida State. He'll be a candidate at North Carolina. If somehow Dabo Sweeney survives, you know, if he doesn't, you know, he'll be a candidate there with all the resources at Clemson. I just think that, you know, with his record, you know, it's a lot like, to me, it just when it gets stale, you know what I mean? It's almost like Mike Tomlin. You know, if Mike Tomlin got fired, you know, the Steelers would certainly find another head football coach who could win football games and be successful here. But Mike Tomlin would get a job instantly in another organization. Now, would he be successful in another place? That's TBD. We don't know. But he would certainly get another job. He's one of the best coaches out there. But I think that at the end of the day, the message got stale. And when you put yourself in that pedestal that you're a national title contending team and you just absolutely flop, and it's not like they had a hard schedule. You know, the schedule was absolutely horrific. I mean, they faced 3 horrible non-con games. They have been ridiculed about that. FIU, Nevada, and Villanova. You lose to UCLA, you lose to Oregon, and now you lose to Northwestern. I mean, pretty much the bottom barrel besides Oregon. You know, that's pretty bad. The questions start to arise there. We'll hook up more here. John Waffle again. Do you think Ditka could have saved Pitt in the 90s? No, because at the end of the day, I thought Pitt just didn't have enough resources. There was that cultural shift that was completely Pitt's fault.
Yep.
You know, in my opinion. And again, and to the fans that are out there, the facts are the facts. The Steelers needed Pitt to move to Heinz Field to get Heinz Field because they would have went to a vote and they would have absolutely got crushed in the vote, which I mean eventually they did. But when you forced Pitt to move out of Pitt Stadium because one, it needed renovated or rebuilt. Pitt Stadium was a dump at that point, which I agree. It should have been rebuilt. It should have been renovated. I think that gets recoursed. We may touch on that here for like 5 minutes because it's already an hour and 23 minutes in, and I can go on for an hour and a half on this. But Pitt will rectify that, in my opinion. But also some of the comments today from a certain media personality on a certain podcast on YouTube. You know, maybe the for-profit team can get their own stadium. You know, there's a conversation coming. We saw it, you know, really hit the airwaves this week with the Steelers looking to renovate their, Acrisure Stadium, which is going to be from the numbers. And with me being in finance, I've heard a lot of the numbers between that $500 to $800 million mark to renovate Acrisure, or you tear it down and you build a whole new stadium, or they move out of the city, which is going to be a conversation too. I think they're going to get sued too much to try to do that. But you have to understand that when Pitt moved, they were pretty much forced. I mean, they pretty much sold the dream of you're going to be able to recruit certain players. It just wasn't a good move for Pitt. But also, too, Pitt needs a lot of blame, too, because they weren't given a lot of resources to all their coaches. Can you imagine, guys, and correct me if I'm wrong, if you would have given Heather Lyke and Pat Gallagher to Dave Wanstead, could you imagine what that guy would have done for Pitt? I mean, he was recruiting with stains on the floor. He used to have coaches standing on certain stains in the facility to sell it. It looked like the Steelers side, which also, too, the Steelers do not in any way, shape, or form invest into their facility over there. When you walk between both facilities, it's like, okay, Pitt has to be the NFL team, and then the Steelers have to be the college team. I mean, that's just how ugly it is over there and how bad it is. But at the same time, when you look at, to answer your question, John, you know, could they have saved them? No, because they didn't want to give up the resources. And I think now the difference now, and then we'll find out in 5 years, is it too little, too late? The resources are there. You know, and again, Wani would have been a legend here if he was never fired and he had the support that he did, because the facilities he has here, he understood the value of putting a picket fence around Pennsylvania and said, I'm gonna get these guys, and then put a steel wall around the Whippeal, and was able to get those guys, the Doran Dickersons of the world, the Jason Pinkstons of the world. You had a number of those guys that come through the system that were just incredible across the board. Jonathan Baldwin. I mean, you can have a list just on and on. Darrell Revis. I mean, the names could just go on and on and on. But could they have saved them? No. To your, I guess to ask you guys here real quick. I went on a tangent there. I don't know where I was going with that, guys. I'm sorry about that.
Well, no. You know, I had a discussion one time with Dave Wanstead, and Wanstead was going to have to peel money out of his own pocket to replace the carpet at the South Side. And it was just, it's staggering when you think of what Steve Peterson was doing, the resistance he was offering. So you're 100% correct. I mean, Wani with support from administration would have been a legend. It's a real shame. It really is. He's a good man.
Yeah, and I just, to your point there, and also too, just the stadium portion of it, I think that gets rectified here in the coming years, because there's conversations what the Steelers want to do with their stadium if they end up moving or anything like that. What happens to Acrisure? All those conversations are ongoing, and what happens there. But the Steelers need to do something to correct the issue at Acrisure, because one, bleacher seating in an NFL stadium is absolutely comical. I mean, when they first did that back in the day, I remember growing up, the adults, when I was a kid, they were just making fun of the Steelers, saying, you know, they pretty much muddy putty put this thing together and threw it all together. And I think for an organization like the Steelers, you're a 6-time Super Bowl champion, you should have a nice stadium. I mean, you're one of the premier, if not the premier franchise in the National Football League. You might want to act like it a little bit, just a little bit, you know. But that's a discussion for another day. But to answer this last question here, gentlemen, again, thank you so much for being on as long as you have been tonight. There was a question here. I think it was a good one. When is the last time Pitt played 3 straight teams ranked in the top 10? Notre Dame, Georgia, and Miami are all ranked in the top 10, and who are the final 3 games of Pitt's schedule. And to be honest with you, Duncan, Darius, I don't know. That is a great question. I mean,
same here.
This schedule is going to be extremely difficult coming down the stretch, which is why it's important to get guys back healthy. But I guess to foreshadow this a little bit and to jump ahead, and don't worry to the fans that will DM me later on that I'm overlooking Syracuse. I know I'm just overlooking every game because I'm the one coaching Pitt at this point. The last 3 games of the season, guys. I mean, this is going to be a tough.
Yeah.
I mean, oh my God. In your opinion, do you think that right now, with the way Pitt's preparing and really playing well at this point and getting better and better and better, are you more optimistic? I mean, I know I am at this point, and we'll see later on, but are you guys more optimistic about the results of those potential games, those final 3 games? Because about a month ago, I was absolutely just down and out. I was like, good Lord Almighty. I'm like, I don't know if we'll win a game out of those 3. But when you look at those 3 games now, do you think Pitt could win 1, 2, all 3? I don't know, but I highly doubt all 3. But do you think Pitt could take 1 of those 3 or 2 of those 3? Harry, go ahead first. You go first.
If I can answer, I think Tech's a possibility. Miami, I said this before. Now, I hate saying this, but they're more consistent this year. Miami is normally a Jekyll and Hyde team. One week they show up, and the next week they look like a cream puff. I hate saying this, but Miami's playing pretty damn consistently. So, of the 3, I think Tech is the most realistic shot, although they're pretty tough as well. And I'm hoping that Miami decides to take a week off, and that there is a possibility that could happen because Mario Cristobal is known to do that. So that's my general thoughts.
Yep.
Go ahead, Eric.
Yeah, I agree. I think that because of the way Georgia Tech plays and how we were talking about how the Pitt's defensive line disrupts a lot and how willing that the secondary comes up and tackles the run. I do think that's the best matchup for Pitt in those 3 games. Miami, because, maybe the weather can help out. Some of those, they may not like the weather at the end of the year. But again, Miami is just so talented. They're so fast. I know they lost the first 2 games, but I've watched a couple of Notre Dame games, and to me, they look like one of the 2 or 3 best teams in the country.
Yeah,
I agree.
So don't I know they lost the 2 games, but I know they got a tough one with USC coming up, but yeah. So Notre Dame, good. That one's I believe at home as well. So
yeah,
Notre Dame's like a pro team. So I mean, they definitely could, but I agree with Harry. Georgia Tech's the most likely. Some things could happen with Miami, so possibly. I think if they can run off and become 7-2 going into those 3,
yeah. Who knows?
1 of 2 would be fine, but man, two of 3 would be an absolute awesome thing to do.
If Mason and this crew won 2 or 3 of those games, oh my lord, I wouldn't even want to know.
Something. That would be something.
But here is the facts, though. If especially too, if Pitt does indeed take care of business, beat Syracuse next week, which we will have a preview show. We'll go through a lot of what Syracuse looks like. Fran Brown, who I really respect as a coach. I got a number of people that are very connected towards him, and he's a damn good football coach, and he's doing a great job with a school that has limited to no resources. Heather Lake's up there right now. They're probably looking to build a whole nother new arena that won't make any money. So good for them. But at the end of the day, this team has a real opportunity to go forward, but take care of business coming week. We will certainly talk about it. It's time to, jump back on board. I understand if we were going down a path that was bad, I understand not wanting to show up, but Acrisure Stadium with Mason Heinschel at the helm, this team getting better, especially if they win next week at 5-2, people need to start showing up. It's time to, one, to show, especially two, people don't want to talk about it. Coaches are watching. Certain coaches and certain people are watching to see what we do. So it'll be really fun to see how we respond going forward and how we're going to respond against Syracuse, because this is definitely a trap game. We had 2 great wins in a row. You beat Florida State. What type of leadership and what type of results do we get from this football team as we prepare for the Syracuse Orange, which is apparently a rivalry game, even though I don't see it as a rivalry game, but it is apparently a rivalry game in college football. So we're preparing for the Syracuse Orange. Gentlemen, thank you so much for showing up tonight. Allegheny Anthony. We started 7-0 last year, and look what happened. It's fun to look ahead, but let's take it one game at a time. I agree. It's important. At the end of the day, we'll be getting ready for the Syracuse Orange here this week. Harry, tell them where they can find you on all of your platforms and where they can follow you at.
So on X, you can find me at Pitt Guru. Pump out a lot of stuff for Pittsburgh Sports Now. And also, I've written a best-selling book. You could find that at harrypaceris.com.
If you haven't done so, it's a tremendous book and is nationally recognized, and everything that's going on right now, it's a great read. And if you know somebody, it is a must buy. So I suggest please go on supporting Harry, because he did a tremendous job. The amount of work that went into that to even get it to the finish line. Harry's just a good man overall, but I mean, to get that to the finish line is truly second to none. So just shout out to him for the work ethic that was involved there, because it's not easy. So shout out to Harry for getting that done.
Thank you.
Eric, where can they follow you? Of course, I always love joining your show, brother, the Bird Cave, but make sure where they can follow you on every platform.
Yeah, absolutely. I appreciate that, JJ. Yeah. On the Twitters, we call it, or X, at Bird Cave, just like you have in the little name tag there. YouTube channel, the Bird Cave, where we talk a lot of Steelers mostly, but obviously we hit on Pitt football and other football topics as well. I was definitely thankful JJ came on and talked a little whippeal action here. We have a little passion for that as well. And then also, Facebook groups, and as well as Instagram, though honestly I don't monitor that much, but it's mainly Twitters and YouTube though. But yeah, follow us up if you like to talk football, have some beers, and have a good time.
And gentlemen, I want to say this here to all the people that have just tuned in and asked questions. I love the comment section has truly been incredible. The passion. We do have a great fan base, and I want more and more people to see that. And the passion that shows out every week. Guys, tonight, want to thank both of you. Tonight, a record was broken. If you guys don't know about it, all 3 were streaming live on YouTube X, and Facebook after the show's posted. You can only find it on YouTube. But right now, we have 1,200 people viewing the show right now, guys, and that's a new record. Cannot thank you guys enough for showing up and being just incredible. The comment section has truly been incredible. The amount of people that now watch the show has been incredible. Absolutely. Great comment here by Allegheny Anthony again. If we stay healthy, play freshman quarterbacks Harrison and Sean Lee, we can win it. We can win it all. Appreciate that. But thank you guys enough for joining the show, guys. I mean, the show continues to be great because of just great guests. I mean, you guys are truly the best. What are you looking at there?
Metcalf Berg, who's actually a pretty good Steelers follow, just has a picture of James Franklin, says, "Please Steelers."
Please Steelers. Oh my God. Yeah. No, we do not want that at all. We do not want that.
Are we doing this already?
Just, is it ever going to end? Eric, you're dealing with all the Steelers stuff. God bless you, brother. It's going to be just continuous. Will says, great show, guys. Congrats on the record. JJ, thank you as always.
Absolutely.
MWay96, awesome show as always, guys. Thank you again for tuning in to another show. Great job, fellas. Thank you, sir, as always. Cannot thank you guys enough. Thank you for watching another episode of Talking College Football. We'll be back again. Obviously, Harry and Eric and Carlo are always welcome on the show because they're great people. Number one, that's what matters most to me, is that we bring on great people, and they certainly fit that mold, as they are great individuals, incredible work ethic, have a great number of goals in front of them, but also two great fathers, to say the least. So we're lucky to have them on here, guys. Thank you enough for watching another episode of Talking College Football with JJ Kitchen. As always and forever, hail to Pitt. Let the thunder roll. We'll see you guys next time.